For this week's segment of the Rearview presented by BF Goodrich, we're actually going to flash forward from your back-to-back world titles and watch a heat from the 2019 Galicia Longboard Classic, which had amazing waves. And this heat features you, Honolulu Blomfield, and Kira Molnar.
Cool.
All right, so scene set for this week's Rearview. This is the 2019 Galicia Longboard Classic. We're round 2, heat 8. And you, KELIA, are taking on your fellow Hawaiian, Honolulu Blomfield, and Kira Molnar. Number one, where is Galicia? What's your headspace at heading into this event?
Quickly, I just want to go ahead and talk about my hairdo in that picture. That's when I had a mullet. So, yeah, wow.
You wore it well.
So this is in Spain, Galicia, Spain. It's a super cute small town. I was actually really nervous to go there because my brothers told me it was like really boring. And that's kind of all they told me. And I got there and it was so peaceful. It was so beautiful. It was such a beautiful countryside like place. I got this super like darling little house and yeah, I actually really enjoyed myself there. But these waves were so hard to longboard.
What makes them hard to longboard for people like me who just has no idea? Because you look like you're having a good time.
The tide change is so drastic. So like literally the wave moved and shifted every 15 minutes, 10 minutes really. Luckily my brother Josh was there and he's been there like so many times. And he's like a QS warrior. So he's so like, he knows so many little, I just pays attention to these little details that I am like oblivious to. And if I wasn't there, I probably wouldn't have made one heat, seriously. So, I mean, the waves are constantly moving and, you know, it's like big in the morning and then all of a sudden it's like super high tide and terrible and fat. So it was just really hard. I mean, I think for no matter what board you ride really, but this day in particular, it was just kind of like, there was just like a lot of water moving. And when you have a longboard, it's just not the easiest sometimes to maneuver through waves to get back out. But luckily you have a lot of volume so you can paddle a little faster.
You mentioned getting a little cottage. Do you travel at this event? Are you traveling with anyone? I know you said you had Josh there. Are you guys staying together? Do you stay with any other longboarders in the event?
So I actually got this little house and I had Khalees Kaleopa'a, her mom, Connie Alice Stewart, and my best friend Megan Godinez. And we all stayed together. And Josh stayed with us as well for a few nights. It's so fun to travel with like your friends, no matter where you go, really. And especially to Europe, because it's just no matter what, you're going to get this like crazy different cultural experience, especially coming from Hawaii. So it was fun. It's always just such a blast to travel that far together and then to like try to figure out how to live in a different country for a couple weeks together. So we really enjoyed it.
Like touring is just kind of like summer camp for adults, basically. It's always fun, you know?
It is. It's so fun trying to figure out where to eat, trying to figure out like what time. The funny thing about this place is that nowhere was open really at like a reasonable hour. So you would surf all day. The sun doesn't go down till like 10:30 and then like you don't have dinner till like 11 and you're like literally dying of tiredness, but you just have to stay up if you want to eat dinner.
I used to do this thing when we go to Brazil and they'd be like, you got to come to the party. And I'm like, oh, what time? I'm a morning person to begin with. And I'm like, what time is it? They're like, oh, it kind of gets going at like 2. I'm like, okay. So I would go to bed and then I'd get up and shower and then go to the party. Because I'm like, I can't just rally through it. I'm not going to hang.
It's insane.
And you'd taken a couple of years off of competing before 2019. And what was the thought process there? And why did you decide to come back?
Kind of like I said earlier a little bit, I kind of touched on how like, I don't know, I have this like love-hate relationship with competing. And I think I just didn't really appreciate losing at the time. So I just was like, I'm not going to like get angry at it. I'm just going to stop doing it. And I stopped. And then I had a couple birdies in my ear, just been like, why? Like I was really young. Like, I mean, I still am pretty young, but I think I won when I was 19, 20. I went back 21. So I stopped competing. Oh, you know what also happened? I got a little bit of an accident where I was on this boat trip. I slipped and fell on my face on this boat and broke my teeth out and like got all this like bone damage in my mouth. So I actually couldn't surf for like 7 months.
Whoa.
I couldn't really do anything because I broke so much bone up here, and your gums are so sensitive to like any type of like pressure in your head, like blood circulation and stuff, that I just couldn't really I couldn't work out. I couldn't do anything that like got my blood going because I needed to let it heal and it takes such a long time to heal. Like I literally finished all my reconstructive surgery in my teeth and my like bones in my mouth 2 years ago. No, a year and a half ago. And I fell like in 2017.
Oh, wow.
2017. So that's also what happened. I fell and I couldn't surf. And then so I just didn't feel prepared.
The pressure and frustration around losing or potentially losing, did that increase for you after you won your world titles? Do you feel like the spotlight was more on you and you put more pressure on yourself and that it intensified, or is that something that's been consistent from the start for you?
Yeah, I think it definitely played a little bit of role. I think it honestly got worse like this time around when I started competing again, because I feel like maybe my platform had built a little bit and people almost expected me to. Not when I say people, I don't mean people I don't know. I literally am talking about like my family and friends. Like they're like, why would you stop? Like just like you're so young and just why would you not just try? And I think that kind of was like I would tell myself like, yeah, why am I not just gonna try? And then that got me overwhelmed with like, oh my gosh, if I try, that means I can't fail. Because if I fail, then you're losing again. Like, so it's just, I don't know, the competitive spirit that is just scared of losing and failing, really.
I remember Andy said that like a long time ago. He said, everyone wants you to win your first world title. Like everyone's cheering for you to win your first world title because the second you lose, you get a target on your back. Like they want you to lose. Second you win, everyone puts a target on your back.
Yeah, I think also it kind of made me feel a little having a little bit more like, I don't know, attention in certain ways makes you have this like unrealistic pressure. It's just like a complete unrealistic pressure of like, when I look at it now that I'm not competing, I don't have the pressure on me. I'm like pregnant. I'm like, I can't compete anyways. Like whatever. I could, but I'm not. I look at it like, why would you even care? Like, who cares? But like in the time when it's happening, I care so much, and I like to pretend I don't, but in reality, I do.
What's your relationship like with your competitors here? We'll start with Honolulu because she's up and riding.
Oh well, oh no, I've known her since she was a little incy wincy baby. She's the sweetest girl. I don't know. I don't have any weird relationships with competitors. It's more just myself. If anything, I really admire, especially these girls in her age group and even younger who are coming up, like Khalees. She's 15, 16. She's like a child and she's actually winning. She won the first event of the year. And, they are just very determined. And I think for me, it's really cool to see that they're able to harness that like determination, but not let their emotions, like I'm super emotional. And I definitely am like guilty of letting those emotions get the best of me in my performances. And they don't let that happen. They're just kind of like, they surf so much. They're so confident. They know their boards and they're just going to surf. So I really admire that, especially Hono. Hono's just like, she's just a little surf rat. She surfs so much and she knows how good she is. And she's not competing against the field. She's really just trying to like better herself every time. So I really can admire that about
Well, there's
girls.
also like, there's kind of that bell curve in all sports, right? Where when you're young, you're like singularly focused. You don't have a lot going on. You surf all day or you play basketball, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
and you're like, yeah. And you don't have any accomplishments yet necessarily. So everything's kind of gravy. You're like, yeah, I'm the underdog. Like, I know you kind of feed off that energy. And it's when you do start achieving things, again, you get that target on your back. You're also getting, becoming an adult. So your life's getting considerably more complex than it was when it's like, oh, I just surf all day. Like,
exactly.
So I think all those things kind of factor in, and it's I think it's something that you see at both sides of surfing, and in other sports too.
Totally. Thank you for acknowledging that, because sometimes you need to be
of course.
reminded.
Well, and then you get people like Kelly who just probably like take all of the increasing complexity and just use it to like channel his competitive focus, where you're like, that's hard. And not a lot of people do that.
Yeah, well, he's a freak.
Different.
I don't understand that psychology.
Well, yeah, I don't know if anyone does. Like, I think that's why he's pretty unique.
I know, it's amazing.
What about so you're starting your family? Are you thinking that you might compete after or after you have kids, or is that just up in the air?
I honestly, it's funny. Like, part of me feels like since I got pregnant, I've been surfing a bunch, and it's actually quite challenging surfing with a child in your belly. It's like my balance is like already getting messed up, and I'm not even that like big yet. But I think it almost might set this challenge again for myself to be like, can you do it? Can you, or can you just perform? Can you get better? Maybe, I don't know. Like, am I going to get better at surfing after I have a kid? That'd be kind of cool.
I don't feel like strength. That'd be pretty good.
I don't feel like I personally don't feel like I've gotten any better at surfing in the last 5 years. I feel like I can understand what I want my surfing to look like fully. I feel like I got better equipment, so it's allowing me to surf the way I feel like I want people to visually see me surf. But in terms of like technique and like getting better, I'm not better. No.
I think one of the things that might be interesting, and I'm not forecasting or prophesying what's going to happen here, but I think for me personally, there was just like an incredible amount of weight lifted by having kids, because I was like, these are already like I didn't do anything, I'm like, I did the bare minimum. And I'm like, these kids are
you did
like
the fun stuff.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. But like, I'm like, these kids are already like the best thing I'll ever accomplish in my life. So like all the other kind of pressure about like, are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? Kind of, it's not that it's not there. It's not driving me anymore. But like, you just feel this huge sense of release where you're like, I did a good thing, because these kids are awesome and I didn't even really do it. Like, so maybe that'll play into your advantage. You're like, oh, no pressure. I already did like an awesome thing.
And maybe my focus won't be so much on myself, because I know my focus won't only be on myself. So maybe that'll be beneficial to a potential competitive career in my future.
Yeah, we'll see. And I think, like, as you said, like the platform for all surfers, longboarders included, like you can go film and edit, you can go do an event. You are, being a brand ambassador is something I want to talk about too with you, because it feels like there's so many ways for you to express who you are and what longboarding is and share surfing with people nowadays. It's not just one singular thing. Yeah.
I think for me particularly, and why I love longboarding and why I love making sure that I show how fun I'm having when I surf. And I don't even mean like when I'm on a wave. I mean like when the process of going surfing. So that includes the people I go surfing with, where I go surfing, like in tropical places, because I don't like being in a wetsuit. And making it this experience of really what my childhood looked like. Like, I want to make sure that when I go surfing, like people kind of get in a little like preview of what my childhood looked like, because it was like the most special time really in my life of being able to just go to the beach and like literally not care about anything. And when people watch longboarding, and when I say people, I mean people who have never surfed before, I think that there's this approach to seeing someone on a longboard that looks like, I can do that, versus like a lot of the other stuff that people are doing right now. Like my little brothers are doing like backflips and cartwheels, and I don't even know all these other things that I can't even do on land. So it's really confusing when they're doing it on a moving wave in the air. For a person who's never seen surfing to look at that and go, I can do that is maybe like I want to do that one day is like, you know, but like looking at me going kind of like straight down the line on a wave, in my head, I'm thinking these people, like someone will probably say, I want to do that. And I can do that right now because it doesn't really look that difficult. And I want to make sure that I'm constantly sharing that like pure joy of like simply riding a wave.
Well, and it's a different kind of intensity, right? I mean, I was a bit of research. You know, Steph Gilmore was saying that every time you stand up, you're smiling, you know, and I think that shines through in regardless of how you're kind of expressing longboarding. And she also said, like, you know, the way KELIA surfs is pretty much the most beautiful ballet on water you could ever imagine. I think people gravitate towards that a lot. But in terms of competition, I think it actually would be much more difficult to decide, as we've talked about, how to approach the wave. You know, I think when you're shortboarding, you're kind of like, I am in fifth gear the entire time. I'm surfing as fast as I can. I'm hitting every section as hard as I can. But in longboarding, you actually have to intentionally throttle back to execute different parts of it, right? Right.
And I think that's like just a big divide in like how, like, am I missing the mark by highlining through this really beautiful section because I'm not on the nose, or I'm kind of just like I'm not on the nose, but I'm not on the tail of my board. I'm in the middle of the wave. I'm high and I'm like in a critical part, but I'm just going straight. If I'm just going straight on this section, is that considered not technical? I don't know. So I don't know. There's a lot of ways to look at it, but I think that, just from a perspective of not knowing surfing, from a person who's like maybe like learning to surf and they're able to see that and go, oh, whoa, that looks fun. I want to make sure that I'm always like kind of embodying that forever because I want more people to surf. It's such a beautiful, happy, I don't know, epic thing to do.
Well, and I think it goes back to the melting pot point. I think the more people that have a good experience doing it, the better off we are as a society in a lot of ways. Right.
I think surfing brings a lot of happiness to the world. So
I've been traveling on the tour for 15 years now for the my career at the ASP and WSL.
Wow.
And I'm always like blown away by how many boards everyone brings. I used to bring way too many boards. I'm down to just one. On the longboard tour, like how many boards would you travel to Galicia with in terms of?
Oh, I do not carry more than 2 boards. I would literally break my back if I had to carry 2 more. My boards aren't super heavy, but I think with just like so much, just the board bag itself, like, I mean, my board's like 9'2", 9'4". It's a lot of board. And then you have the board bag. Then you have all like the accessories that go into it. I can't carry it. There's some girls take 2 board bags, 4 boards. Personally, I don't break boards. I am extremely calculated when I catch a wave. So if I feel like I'm going to break my board, I'm probably not going to go. I also don't like getting pounded. So again, if I'm a straight up wuss when it comes to surfing any type of sketchy wave.
Well, hold on, because you are world famous for attempting the longboard Teahupoo, and I'm not succeeding in a lot of ways too. So tell us about that. How do you bridge the gap between you being totally calculated and surfing one of the most intense waves on the planet?
When it is up to me, I am very calculated.
I see.
When I surfed Teahupoo, I was not up to me. I was in the hands of Raymana.
Oh.
And when you're in the hands of Raymana, you have no choice but to listen to him, because if you don't listen to him, you'll probably kill yourself. So I just listened to him, and he told me to jump off his ski, and I just basically just didn't look at what I was jumping into and just jumped.
Well, Raymana is now head of the water patrol surf guides at the surf ranch, so it's like a wildly different experience than being at Teahupoo. But yeah, it's still same deal. Like you have to
same deal, because he's screaming at you from that ski, telling you to go down, pull in, go and it's the best feeling because you feel so like empowered. Like, wow, he really believes in me, but he believes in freaking everyone.
That's right.
No, he's amazing. And I mean, it was a great experience. Like, I'm super happy I like at least can say that I tried to, but will I ever do it again? Probably not.
You did it. Well, and then I guess too, like, so for, if we're looking at this heat, you mentioned you have different kinds of longboards. I'd imagine they kind of range from, more classical single fins to probably more high performance. Like, what kind of board are you riding in this heat, and why did you make that selection?
So I grew up in Hawaii, obviously surfing in Hawaii, and I grew up surfing 2+1. So I had 3 fins under my tail pretty much my whole. I won my world titles on 2+1s. I never rode single fins, and that's basically because I grew up watching and learning from people who rode 2+1s, and I loved it because I also love turning. And when you ride something that has 3 fins in it, smaller fins, that you can turn it a lot easier, and you feel the drive and all these amazing things. But then I started to, when I was like maybe 6, 7, no, I must have been 18. Sorry. I was 18. I was always very, very inspired by Cassie Mitter. And I went on a trip to the Men's Wise with her, and she always rode single fins. She's like, Grom, you need to try this board. And I was always looked at her boards like, oh my gosh, they're so big. Like, my boards were always so small, and like they were, tiny compared to hers. But I remember doing my first like real like hang 10. Like, obviously I've hung 10 before, but on a log that lifted me, and it felt like I was like literally like on a diving board on the wave. And I remember that feeling. I got a photo, and I will always remember this photo and the surf and like surfing with her that day, because it was like really like amazing. So it's really crazy what equipment can do. And since that time, that was a Dane Peterson board that I rode. Since that time, he shaped me a board. And it's like still to this day one of my favorite boards that I ride. And since then, I kind of just was experimenting with different shapes. I am super naive when it comes to board shapes and understanding what works and why it works. But what I do know is that now I love surfing single fins. And from basically 18 till now, I'm still trying to figure out what I love. But Thomas Bexton from Noosa, I had the pleasure of meeting him in Noosa 2 years ago. And I was surfing a bunch with Harrison Roach, who's, I don't know if you've seen him surf before, but if you haven't, you should just, I don't know, YouTube him or look him up on Instagram, because he has one of the most like smooth approaches to surfing, period. Like, he is so smooth, and he's very technically smooth. And he's incredible to watch and incredible to just like learn from. So I was surfing with him in Noosa a bunch. And obviously seeing him surf, I'm like, okay, what are you riding? Like, I want to know what you're riding. And he's like, oh, I'm, Thomas Bexton, shapes my boards, whatever. And Devin Howard actually introduced me to Thomas and was like, Devin had told me, you need to try one of his boards. I'm like, okay, I'd like love to. He goes, I never thought I could ever get better at surfing. And when I was 40, I rode his board for the first time. And I feel like I've gotten better since, from just simply riding his boards. And so if Devin's saying that, I'm going to obviously trust his word. And
well, it's weird because Devin's only 35 because he doesn't look 40 at all.
I know. Devin is, and he surfs so good. Oh my gosh. I could talk about that for a long time too. So since then, Thomas has shaped me a few boards, and I would say they're the best longboards. And they allow, he didn't take away what I loved about my 2+1s. So I feel like I found this happy medium of this board that I can really like maneuver, but also like plant a really like happy hang 10 on. And his boards are amazing. They're just, I mean, I wish I could do better at explaining why I love them, but I do love them. And I think it's just because it's like a very well-rounded classic shape. I mean, classic, whatever that means to anyone. But that's how I would look at him. All of his boards to shape me are single fins, and they're not overly heavy. The tails aren't huge. They're just perfect.
Do you like that? Well, if so, subscribe over there and then watch more videos over there. And then tell us your favorite videos down there. It's a 3-step process. Do them all now.